On Story is brought to you in part by the Alice Clayburgh Reynolds Foundation, a Texas family providing innovative funding since 1979. On Story, presented by Austin Film Festival, a look inside the creative process from today's leading writers and directors. This week's On Story, in the name of the father and Hotel Rwanda screenwriter, Terry George.
When you make a movie of someone's life, or even a book, I look at movies as, movies are the brandy of, of the grape. Champagne is the grape, you distill the champagne and you get the cognac or the brandy. It's all about distilling, finding the essence of what the story is and boiling it down to those 2 hours.
In this episode, Terry George discusses the challenges of bringing nonfiction stories to the big screen.
How do I get people to go to see a film about the genocide in Rwanda? How do you get people to go see a film about 2 mothers dealing with their hunger striker sons in Northern Ireland, or, Jerry Conlon? That's the challenge. The facts are there, and it's then about distilling those facts and finding what attracted you to it in the first place, and then coming to a distillation of what that is, and then presenting that to the audience. How can I then transmit that to them, the same enthusiasm I had, and tell the story? And also, how can I put, asses in seats? I think it's the most heroic character you can find in nonfiction. The ordinary person who often is flawed, and yet through fighting or through challenging some particular evil or whatever, manages to find their own greatness.
I'm an innocent man! I spent 15 years in prison for something I didn't do. I watched my father die in a British prison for something he didn't do. And this government still says he's guilty. I want to tell them that until my father is proved innocent, until all the people involved in this case are proved innocent, until the guilty ones are brought to justice, I will fight on.
If you look through news or books or non-fiction books, you come across these people. It's the John Lennon, it's the working class hero or whatever that most attracts me, because I also find that that's a character that the audience can empathize with right away, and therefore you take the audience along with that character on a journey through some unimaginable situation that they have no inner perspective of. And that, being able to do that, I think is the great power of film. Because not only do you tell a story, but you transmit something that I don't think documentary can quite ever get.
General.
Ah, Paul. The scotch is exceptional.
It is our most popular single malt. I knew you'd like it. Colonel Oliver, it is a pleasure to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Paul.
General, let me recommend the lobster for lunch today. It is spectacular, straight off the plane.
Fresh lobster in Kigali. You do us proud, Paul.
Well, thank you.
I left a little something for you with the coat check.
Yeah, he was the perfect hotel manager. He had been trained in Belgium and in Switzerland, and trained in a very European, elegant way to serve mostly Europeans who came to Africa. And he learned through that training and through dealing with the tourists who came to the hotel and so forth, how to barter and how to, and that bartering, that capacity to please people became one of his great strengths, but also one of his great weaknesses, in that he had a superiority complex to the rest of the Rwandans around him, and he had this, the hotel should not be used by ordinary people.
Mr. Manager.
What do you think you are doing, Gregoire?
What is it?
It's okay, darling. What do you want?
You had better get out of this room and back downstairs right away.
I don't have to listen to you anymore.
Yes, you do. I am in charge. Now get out of this room right now.
His main interest was to protect the nuclear family. Him, Tatiana, the two kids, and then she forced him to, then it was the neighbors, then it was the hotel people, then it was the refugees coming in. So his family expanded, and with that, he overcame his own snobbery and his own, sycophancy for Europeans. The great biography characters are nearly always flawed. It's extremely hard, I think, to tell a good story with somebody who's a saint or close to a saint, and I think that's one of the reasons why, and I like the Walk to Freedom with Nelson Mandela's story, but he didn't do that much. He was a good guy, went to prison and came out a good guy. There's not a lot of evolution. Winnie, on the other hand, who kind of dominated now there is a great biography, if you get it, and I was asked to do a biography of Pelé for the last World Cup, and I looked at it and other than marrying this blonde TV star, Pelé didn't do too much wrong at all. So it's really hard to engage the audience in a drama. It's enormous characters. If it's Patton or a biopic like that, you have these Lincoln, these enormous figures that you're more in awe of. You're looking at a study of that person. Somewhat historically or inspirationally, but it's very hard to feel empathy with them. They're in a way non-fiction superheroes, whereas Paul Rusesabagina and Giuseppe Conlon and even Jerry and the two women I had and some other sons could be your parents, your brother, your sister, the neighbor, and for me, that's even more inspirational. We put on the poster, "This is a true story." And we were sued in Britain by some MPs and so forth. And the distributors got cold feet and had us change it to "based on a true story." And there were all sorts of denunciations of the film as IRA propaganda and that these guys were really guilty. And we were glorifying terrorism by having Daniel Day-Lewis play this petty thief.
Jesus Christ, how much money is there?
What I've learned to do, and if you're doing non-fiction, particularly controversial stuff, you better line up all the facts that you have. And keep a chronicle of every scene should relate to something that actually happened. Or even if you're inventing something, that invention should come from it should be a compression of something that happened. Or if you're compressing characters, you better be able to name those characters. So that when the attack comes, which it will, because there's no such thing as good news. On a non-fiction film, the first thing that the press want to do is say it's not true. You then are able to go back and to defend yourself on the basis of everything they had. And basically, within the name of the Father, the whole thing came down to Jerry Conlon wasn't in the same cell as his father, even though we portrayed him as that. Well, that was correct. He wasn't. He was in the next one, But we couldn't have them shout through a wall to him, so we decided we'll put them in the same cell. And the other big criticism was that they don't say, "Please approach the bench in the British court." And that was the stuff. And then with Hotel Rwanda, it was because Hotel Rwanda started off being this, in Rwanda itself, President Kagame and all adored it. Oh, they loved this film and what had it done. And a month later, Paul Rusesabagina had written a biography and it came out, and it was very critical of President Kagame, who is, by everybody's definition now, a dictator. And immediately then, there have been books written about the lie that Hotel Rwanda is, and continual articles, and Paul Rusesabagina is actually public enemy number one in Rwanda now. Can never go back there, and yet I had sat beside the President Kagame and watched the film in Kigali with his wife on the other side, and the people and the whole Parliament there. And when they started the denunciations, having learned from In the Name of the Father, I had videotaped everybody I interviewed, including parliamentarians and so forth. But it got to the point where, what's the point in getting into this debate? The film had been out, and unless they actually used it to incriminate anybody, I didn't want to get into the argument. Jim and Sharon and I were accused of being, IRA propagandists and subjective, and we had no objectivity. There's no such thing as objectivity in any cinema. If you point a camera at someone for 20 seconds and 5 seconds on another person, you've already made a subjective decision, And once you define the hero and how you present them, then again, and with us telling the story, clearly we had believed fundamentally that Jerry Conlon and In the Name of the Father was an innocent man wrongly imprisoned. So we're already telling that story.
A statement, my lord, which vindicates all of these people, all these innocent
people. My lord, I need to see a copy of this statement.
Either that man or his superior or his superior's superior ordered that these people be used as scapegoats by a nation that was baying for blood.
My lord!
In return for the innocent blood spilled on the streets of Guildford. And by God, you've got your blood,
Mrs. Pierce is making a
Mr.
political
Nixon.
speech. This is
You've got
outrageous.
the blood of Giuseppe Conlon, you've got the lifeblood of Carol Richardson, and you've got 15 years of blood and sweat and pain from my client, whose only crime was that he was bloody well Irish, and he was foolish, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mrs. Pierce, I will have you removed from the court.
At the same time, we have to prove our case, and we have to enrage the audience to a certain degree. And in Hotel Rwanda, I mean, that's that was a shoe-in in terms of the emotions. You can't be for genocide, it's simple as that. So the question then was, how do you turn that into a love story and a thriller? It was a siege story and an escape story.
Have you seen Tatiana?
No, I've not seen Tatiana. Paul, what is happening?
No, I have to find my wife.
Make it universal, because nobody gave a shit about Rwanda when it happened. It was like, turn your head away from it. So that's why I like the non-fiction narrative feature medium so much, and why particularly the ordinary man who fights against evil, ordinary woman, is a challenge and a great vehicle.
You've been watching a conversation with Terry George on Story. Next up, filmmaker Dean Loxton and his short film, Under.
Hello, my name is Dean Loxton, and I am the writer-director of the short film Under. The idea for the film came from an actual experience I had on the London Underground. I was on a train that came to a standstill because there was a passenger that threw themselves on the track. And afterwards, I couldn't stop thinking about that person and what desperate place they must have gone to do such a thing. But also the tube train driver and what they must go through. And I thought about this connection that they would have for pretty much the rest of their lives because of this experience. What I specifically wanted to explore with this film was the idea of being knocked senseless by an event in one's life. So nothing makes sense, like you're at the bottom of an ocean and this kind of vast space, and you don't know where you are, and at some point, hopefully, nature will heal you, and then you rise to the surface and breathe again in the reality. Coming up is my film Under.
Where are you from?
Manchester, yeah, originally. I moved to London when I was a student. And I just stayed, I suppose. Yeah.
You, said you smell on the underground often, do you?
Well, I haven't seduced you yet.
What do you do for a living?
I work on the underground, actually.
I work for a big bank. Don't believe everything you read in the papers. I'm a lawyer, anyway. Not a trader.
I'm on leave at the moment. Yeah, I'm just having a bit of time.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
So do you have family or anything?
Wife and son. Estranged. Wife.
Mm. Do you want to come back to mine?
I don't think that's a good idea.
So, why are you on leave?
I had a 1 under. I think I must just be one of the sensitive ones. What's your job like?
Pays the bills. Actually, I was made redundant. I lost my job, and my wife left me for a colleague. That's my son.
Oh, it's cute. I don't want to have sex or anything, but would you mind if we just lay together? I mean, would that be okay? You know, he looked me straight in the eye as he jumped. Yeah, we had a connection.
I know why I'm here. You want to save someone.
For more On Story, check out our free podcast at onstory.tv or search the iTunes store and get the book today, On Story, Screenwriters and Their Craft, on Amazon.